Coming up this morning on the Dattitude podcast, the Saints have 2 more sessions remaining in minicamp before they head out for a 6-week vacation. Must be nice. Make millions of dollars and get all these vacations. But I digress. We'll try to answer some of the questions that they have here, including what the running back room currently looks like and whether anyone else can be a solid backup to soon-to-be 30-year-old Alvin Kamara. That's right, I said soon-to-be 30-year-old Alvin Kamara. And when it comes to quarterback, you rat lovers have some hope, as according to our Saints insiders, Spencer Rattler just might have taken more reps. Oh, not might have. He's definitely taken more reps as number 1 than rookie Tyler Shough. Does that mean anything? It is June the 11th, by the way, right? I think. Oh, and then there's the story that really matters around here, and that is LSU headed back to Omaha for their shot at title number 8. What are their odds? What does the bracket look like? Is it fair? Oh, my God, it's not fair. Yes, it is. We have a special happy birthday shout-out. So when we get a happy birthday shout-out, we got to get this thing rolling. And here we go. I think.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.
Where you at, Dattitude family? It is the dog days of June. I did just bark in the air. We are, unfortunately, though, we are not far enough along in the summer to call it the dog days of summer yet, because we haven't even officially got to summer. Yuck. Although, I will say this. We had all that rain yesterday. It's a little nicer outside today than it has been, but we know that ain't going to last. No, officially not the summer yet, but officially we have reached the start of Dattitude, episode number 384, presented by Evangeline Securities for a Wednesday, June the 11th, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Derry. Nearly 35 years on the New Orleans sports media scene. In fact, June the 12th was my official first day at the Times-Picayune way back in 1991. That was 34 years ago. I know I didn't add it right. But I was here for about 10 and a half months before that official start date. June 12th, 1991 is when I officially started permanently. I was permanently hired by the Times-Picayune. I still remember that first day. Crazy. I remember sitting in front of that computer as an agate clerk. Stephen Barraquet, who worked at the Times-Picayune longer than I did. I don't know. Maybe it didn't end up being. Maybe he wasn't there 35 years, but he's still around doing his thing. Not at Times-Picayune, though. But Stephen Barraquet was teaching me how to be an agate clerk. And I remember he says, this is how you do this, and this. And he says, no, you do it, and I'll be back in 10 minutes. And I sat there staring at a screen. Didn't know what I was looking at. He came back, looked exactly like it looked when he walked away. I'm like, I had no idea what you just showed me. So that's how my career began at Times-Picayune. Also covering some prep. That was the fun days. I used to write a column about New Orleans, the New Orleans Recreation Department. NORD. Yeah. That was a long time ago, man. Today, what is on today's show today? Well, summer officially begins, by the way, on June the 20th. I did have to look that up. A week from Friday, by the way, which is the longest day of the year. This might be the longest show of the year if I can't start spitting out what I'm trying to get to. What is on the show today? If you are watching us live, you can see it on today's show. A little bottom right. Saints minicamp. We are going to get into some of the things that are going on in camp. We'll talk about what you want to talk about because it is Mono E Wednesday. We weren't here on Monday, so we decided to do a Mono E Wednesday. Gabe is here later on to talk about the College World Series and college baseball. Running back depth chart. That is going to kind of be our focus on where we start today. Who obviously we know who number one is. Again, we talk about 30-year-old Alvin Kamara, but we haven't talked enough about who else is in that running back room. Does it matter? Is someone going to take charge? Is Devin Neal going to take charge? Interesting subject, I think. So we're going to kind of go into that today. I thought that was a good thing to go in when it's just us. We got to talk about the quarterback position. And I didn't want to do the title slot as quarter. We haven't talking so much about the quarterbacks. We are going to bring it up today, but I don't want to spend too much time talking. Maybe 10 minutes talking about today. But I found it interesting looking at Matthew Parris's story this past Monday. Today is Wednesday. So Monday, but what to look for in camp. He talked about how the Rat has been taking more snaps leading up to minicamp. Now, Luke didn't mention that in his story from yesterday, Luke Johnson. So maybe it's just kind of a ease and Shough in. I still think it's 90% Shough, 10% Rat, but we're going to get what you think. Do you take anything into the fact that Spencer Rattler has had more snaps as the number one quarterback? How did they look? How did they look yesterday? Does it matter? I mean, are we worried about what they look like in minicamp? We're going to be talking about that. And then, of course, LSU is going to be a big chunk of the show today, LSU baseball. We'll get into that later this morning. As they open, some people saying it's not fair. Have you looked at the bracket? The top two teams, as far as the favorite number one and favorite number two, are playing each other in the opener on Saturday. Gabe has thoughts on that. So do I. I'm not going to get into them just yet, but we'll get into the bracket and talk about who's there, who are the favorites. How does it set up for LSU? Does it, does the pitching give them the upper hand? Also, I got a little video to share with you later on this morning. It should be fun. It was about a minute and, I don't know, it's about a minute and 9, minute and 10, something like that. I was there Sunday. Now, Uncle Big Nick had to leave because he can't do late. And when they kept pushing it back, and I had a decision to make. Am I going to stick around by myself and hang out? So I hung out in my truck, watched a little TV in the truck, and hung out and waited. But ended up going to the game by myself. It was fine. I had a good time. Wish UBN would have stuck around, but we had a good day Sunday. And anyway, I recorded the last pitch of the game, and I'll share with you from my perspective. If you haven't seen it already, I posted it on X. On Sunday, either Sunday night or early Monday morning, whenever that was that it ended. I think it was still Sunday night when it ended, but it was a long game. We'll talk a little bit about that, all that coming up. You can be a part of the show. You know how to do it. Type in your comment, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. And if you haven't already subscribed, please do so. The Dattitude YouTube page. We need you, man. We need you on our wall. So please subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube. Tell your friends. Tell your friends about it. Click the little bell. You'll always know when we go on the air live. Usually, until we start the season, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, live at 11 a.m. Central Time. And when the season starts, it'll be Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We'll go back to our 4-day-a-week schedule when we get into September. Be here before you know it, my man. It'll be here before you know it. Before we get to some comments, and I know we got quite a few comments in the queue. I'm going to get to them in just a minute. But got to give some shout outs. Got to give the happy birthday shout out. Wifey's birthday is tomorrow, June the 12th. A lot of things happen to me on June the 12th, by the way. I told you that my first day of the Times-Picayune, my first official day, June 12th, 1991, although obviously I'd worked for 10 and a half months or so before. June 12th, 1991. My wife's birthday, June 12th. I'm not going to tell you what year she was born. She keeps telling everybody she's 29. But I was also the first time, you remember the story about the Times-Picayune being cut from 7 days a week to 3 days a week or whatever. And half of us got that packet that said we were going to bye-bye. Yeah, well, June 12th, I went to bye-bye in 2012, 13 years ago. God, that's hard to believe. It was that long ago. Obviously, they brought me back multiple times. I'm still here. I'm still kicking. So lots of things on June 12th. But anyway, happy birthday to Drea Derry. She turns tomorrow. We'll not tell you, but she was born the same day, same month as our good friend Paul Haley, who also celebrates birthday tomorrow. And my wife's twin, obviously, Donnie, her birthday is tomorrow. Big day. They were all born the same exact day, not just June 12th, the same day, same year. I can't say it. Otherwise, I'll give away how old she is. And again, she's still 29. So happy birthday to all those special people in my life tomorrow. All right, let's get to the comment stream. Who's here this morning? Everybody's here this morning. Gary, good morning. Kyle Sherman, good morning. Dattitudinals back in the USA. Well, thank goodness for that. Why sign Cam Akers? Are you getting ahead of me? You're getting ahead. I got one story up on my screen in the background. You're getting ahead of me. We'll get to that in a little bit, I promise. Charles Mangus, good morning. The Dattitude family. Where are you at? Of course, LSU going to Omaha. Absolutely. Can't stay because you got a VA appointment. Well, you can always watch us later on. Hope your appointment goes well. UBN, good morning. Shouldn't have left, man. I know. You can't handle. You want to talk about old man and a young man's body. That's UBN. I'm just saying. Give him some grief. Mark Satanovich says Devin Neal, running back from Kansas. That's who he likes as the backup. The Alvin Kamara could be. He says the rat looks really good. How do we know? How do we know the rat looks really good? You been out there? And if you have, how much have you seen? How much do you need to see? What did you see him throw? Like 10 passes? How much do we know? I'm not poo-pooing on the rat. I'm just saying we're going to get to the rat. I promise you. Dylan Smith, good morning. Let's go. Absolutely. No doubt about it. Gabe says everyone looks good against practice dummies and cones. Not everybody. Maybe. If you don't, you're probably not going to be on here very long. Lance Novart, who dat, baby? Who dat? Mark also says, my brother-in-law in Metallica this Saturday in Houston. I know. That reminds me. You know who you are. I got to look at something about that. That reminds me. Sorry, but I have not looked yet. But yes. And no, I'm not going to Houston. That is not my I love my brother-in-law to death, but that is not my scene. I go every now and then when they're around here, but that's not my scene. Love him to death. He's just Phil to me. Kyle Sherman. Congratulations. What are you congratulating me on? Huh? You got to let me know what you congratulate me on. Lewis Jacobson, good morning. Getting close. We are getting close to vacation. Absolutely. UBN says, my buddy Dan Campbell wants a live tiger. Why would he want a live tiger on the field now at Lions games? Does he want a live lion or a live tiger? I don't know. Who would win a fight between the live tiger and Dan Campbell? You know, that's one. I wouldn't bet against Dan Campbell on that one. What is he, the Tiger King? That's weird. That dude's weird, dude. I mean, I know a lot of people. He said he meant live lion. Okay, sorry. That dude's weird. I'm not betting against Dan Campbell in a fight with a live lion. I'm not. Look, I'll bet on him as a terrible coach and make a stupid call. It's going to keep the Lions. The Lions have the talent. I mean, the Lions have the best talent in the NFL, in my opinion. I said it. I don't care. I think the Lions had the best talent in the NFL. If they had a real coach. I mean, I like Dan Campbell as a special teams coach. I think he's great at that. He fires him up, recruiting coordinator, whatever you want to use him as. But as a head coach, no. It's a whole different story. See, you got me going off on a tangent this morning. Adam Varner, I haven't heard anything about Rattler playing better than Shough. Not saying Rattler doesn't have potential, but I think Shough starts. Well, I think Shough starts too. I'm just telling you. So far, Rattler has definitely had more snaps. Does it mean anything? We'll get to it. We'll see what y'all think. Brian Cavett, good morning. Go Tigers! Florida Panthers are definitely taking control in the Stanley Cup Finals. Hope you got in on the action early. Nah, I didn't bet on it. I don't care enough. I haven't, I was telling this to a friend of mine the other day. I got the Cubs Cup this morning. I did not go to the racetrack. A lot going on. I got up early, too. I did not go to the racetrack. I made my own coffee, drank my coffee, and now I'm on my second big cup of water. I'm good to go, man. No, I didn't get in on that. I haven't bet on anything in like a month. I don't know. Gabe says he bet on the Oilers back in January. He's not thrilled at Game 3's result. Yeah, it is. It is what it is. Silver Gator is here, enjoying the cooler temps and the cooler heads. Look, I hate rain. Okay, I know. I'm trying to rank how I love and hate my love-hate relationship with the weather. Y'all all know that I'm a weather geek. Okay, or maybe I'm just a geek. Who knows? Whatever. I'm a big, I should have been a meteorologist. Okay. If I could say the word properly, I probably would have been one. But the fact that I can't say it means that, whatever. Call me Little Nash, whatever you want to call me. But I hate summer. That's number one. And I hate rain second. So I guess if I got to take one or the other, I'm going to take rain as long as it's not like deluge. But it makes the weather, it does make things cooler, and it is nicer today. So there you go. I know somebody in this, one of the two people here is excited about Nick Chubb. He visited the Saints. Texans got him. I mean, how thrilled can you be about a guy who's, I don't know, man. He didn't really make a comeback last year. He tried to. We'll see. Silver Gator says the Rat should be ahead at this point. He should be. You're right. He's been in the NFL for a year. Hakeem, what's up, big dog? Earl's Picks, yo, what's up? Let's see. Brian Cabot, quarterback battle is, we can depend on the Rat to be a backup, according to some reports. Rat was like he is in games, lights out at the start and finishes like he's a deer in the headlights. I mean, that's one of the big problems I have with him. Again, it's definitely stuff we'll get into. But, I mean, you got to be able to be consistent, okay? So far, the word is Luke says that he looked pretty good in camp yesterday from start to finish, but neither one of them looked fantastic. Yeah. Silver Gator wants to know my opinion. The Cubs' tough series of Detroit this past weekend, lost 2 of 3. Look, it was on the road and against the best team in Major League Baseball. I'm not that upset about it. It's June. I mean, could it be a World Series preview? Sure, it could be. But I mean, dude, who's beating Scoble? That dude's ridiculous. He really is. Earl's Picks. Happy birthday to your youngest, the big 1-3. Awesome. Kyle Sherman, happy birthday to Mrs. Derry. Lance Dobard, happy birthday, Drea Derry. All right. I'm gonna come back to some comments in a minute. There are some other things I want to talk about this morning before we get to Saints and all this stuff. NBA Finals resume tonight. Oklahoma City, Indiana Pacers tied at 1. To show you that, I'm getting ready for Gabe to shake his head. To show you that no one gives a damn. Neither of my newsletters that I open up, I use 2 newsletters to just kind of look and see if I missed anything from the day before. 2 national newsletters. Neither one of them even mentioned, not even mentioned, the NBA Finals in them. There was more news on Aaron Rodgers getting married. The only thing we know about his wife is that her name is Brittany with an I. There was more news about Aaron Rodgers getting married and Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix, how they're getting along. Talk about Kirk Cousins in a second. Than the NBA Finals. Now, look, I'm not an NBA guy, but I find that absurd, first of all. I find it absurd. I mean, Gabe says it's on sports fans writing those. They're gossip writers. No, I mean, that's one of them's The Athletic. They don't have gossip writers for The Athletic. He's shaking his head up and down this time. I'm telling you. It doesn't matter. Somebody looks at those newsletters. I promise you, somebody looks at those newsletters before they got at those. And Bleacher Report's the other one, by the way. Neither one of them mentioned the NBA Finals. I mean, well, I'll watch. If I have time to, I'll watch. I would probably watch that over anything else tonight. But I may not watch TV. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, for the record, Oklahoma City, if you want to bet on something left over in the NBA Finals, my best bet is OKC to win it in 5. I like that bet. It's plus 200. It's the only semi-value bet you can even get in this damn series because Indiana's not going to. The Pacers are. I don't care. They're not going to win. Okay, they might win one more game and then you lose. Whatever. 2-1. I think there's a 2-1. I think that's good value. Oh, I guess whatever. Plus 200. 2-1. You bet 100. You win 200. Oklahoma City sweeps the rest of the series. Wins 3 in a row. I think there's a good chance they do it. If you want to bet, I'm not saying I'm betting it. I'm probably not betting it, but if you want to bet, other than that, there's nothing to bet. Oklahoma City, a 5.5-point favorite tonight at Indiana. I don't like either way. If I had to pick a side, I would probably take the Thunder, but I don't love it. Futures wise, OKC is minus 525. Indiana plus 400. Just can't bet it, in my opinion. All right. We're going to get to Saints in just a second. I do want to talk about Kirk Cousins real quick, real briefly. Is interesting, going through. It's kind of all over the place right now. But before we get to that and the rest of the show, let me tell you about my friends at Evangeline Securities. Of course, they are a company that can help you decide if it's the right time to sell your family-run or privately held business. And just as importantly, they can figure out what that business is worth. If that is you or someone you know, it's time to reach out to Evangeline's founding and managing partners, Nick Braden and Ron Hemel. They will start by scheduling a complimentary valuation from their offices, either on Poynter Street or in Lafayette. And from there, you'll be well informed and begin to make the decision on if you decide to proceed. You will always be number one on their depth chart. There's no decision. We don't need a show for that. You are number one on the Evangeline depth chart. There's a good reason to stick around and hear more later in the show. In the meantime, you can check them out at www.evangeline.securities.com. Gabe Henderson likes Alex Caruso over 1.5 made threes. It's plus money. Hey, if you're looking for something to do. Let's see what else we got here that I missed. Cubs are looking good. We need the rain. I should have worn my new shirt today. Maybe I'll wear it Friday. I did get a new LSU shirt. Sean says Ross Jackson said day one of the minicamp for the quarterbacks pretty even. Luke didn't really talk about it. He didn't talk about who he thought was better. He said they both were just kind of what and what. It is what it is. Daryl Romero, good morning. How am I doing? I'm doing great. I'm looking forward to some vacay. We got the show on Friday. We will have Garland Gillen is on Friday's show today. Gabe and I are, again, Gabe's coming on a little bit later to talk about college Rossilli's and LSU. Friday, Garland Gillen. We'll talk LSU and Saints, of course. Monday will be Mono Monday. And then next Wednesday, a week from today on June the 18th, is the last show before vacay. We do this every year. We take our little mini hiatus, whatever you want to call it, because once we come back, that's it, baby. There are no more days off. That's it. From July, we'll be back. I think July 11th is when, 9th or 11th. I can't remember. But anyway, whatever day we come back, that's it. We're rolling. We start doing NFL previews. We get you ready for camp. We get into camp. It's preseason, season, bam, we're gone. So it's about a 7-month run, 6 to 7 month run without much of a break. So we take a little mini hiatus that is coming up after next Wednesday show. And on the final show before we go on vacation, it'll be Doug Mouton here a week from today on the June 18th show. You missed. Charles says he missed that Rodgers got married. You didn't miss much. Who cares? Tom Trice, OKC in 5. Great minds think alike. Hey, I love it. UBN wants to know if I want to go on vacation to Omaha. Yeah, I do. You want to go? Hey, I might be up for it, depending if they make it to that last weekend. Can we get tickets? You wouldn't drive with me, though. I'd have to meet you there because I'm driving. I know you wouldn't drive to Omaha. That's a long way. All right, again, last thing, real quick. I told you I wanted to talk about Kirk Cousins. He's there in Falcons camp. Michael Penix, he says about Michael Penix, I thought this was interesting. Quote, and you got to feel for the Falcons, right? What a quandary they have. What a bunch of morons. He says, quote, Michael is going to do great. I just want to be able to support him. Blah, blah, blah. Second year of a 4-year, 180. Y'all thought the Derek Carr contract. See, y'all think all these. When you hate a quarterback, you just think, of course, the contract sucks when it doesn't work out. But so this is kind of proof. Not that I want to bring him up again. But second year of a 4-year, $180 million contract. He's guaranteed $27.5 million this year. If they decide to cut him, he would be a $75 million dead cap hit. And what's even worse is if they want to trade him, not only will they have a tough time finding a trade partner in these Atlanta Falcons, but they're going to have to eat a lot of this money, and Kirk Cousins has to approve the trade. Isn't that crazy? To me, you talk about all the Derek Carr stuff. This is way worse. So if you went out and drafted Michael Penix, knowing that he was your long-term answer at quarterback, why did you go into the whole free agency that year and go spend that money on Kirk Cousins? Make it make sense. Doesn't make sense. Silver Gator wants to know if I'm friends with Kenny Trahan. He's a good guy. He is absolutely a good guy. I don't know if I'd call him. Yeah, I'd call him a friend, I guess. We have been in the same circles for quite a while, working around in the prep zone. He's a very good dude. He works his keister off. He is definitely one of the good guys here in the business in New Orleans. And look, he's everywhere. He does everything around here. Kenny, we got to have him on the show. You know, I just realized that we're on show 384. We've never had Kenny Trahan on the show. Got to do that. We'll work on that. Maybe we'll have him on, if he can make it, we'll have him on during training camp or in early August. Yeah, love to have Kenny on the show. But I see a lot of them during prep season here. And well, not as much as I used to, I guess. We used to run into each other a lot, especially when I was writing and he was broadcasting. But now that I'm broadcasting, all I'm doing is really broadcasting high school games. We don't run into each other as much as we used to. In fact, the last time I think I saw Kenny was at Daniel's funeral. Can't believe that's hard to believe. That's almost a year ago now. We miss him. Desperately miss him. All right, time to move on. We're going to talk Saints this morning. We're going to start off with what is the running back room looking like? And I don't remember who it was that brought up Cam Akers, but it's funny because I didn't even know that Cam Akers was signed. I had no idea. And then I was going through some things this morning and noticed Rod Walker's story that was posted yesterday. And Rod Walker is talking about how Cam Akers, even his name wasn't on the back of his jersey. In fact, this morning when I was looking for a title slide, and I'll show it here again while I have it up. I'll have it here. But if you look at this picture, okay, you see Alvin Kamara obviously and Edwards-Helaire to the right. Well, what's cut off to the right of him is a number 38. I'm like, who the hell is 38? And why is he standing around with the running back? I didn't even know who that was. And come to find out, it was when I started going through this morning about 8 o'clock. I'm going through. What did I miss yesterday? Didn't have a time last night reading through these stories. Like Cam Akers. Cam Akers he doesn't even have his name on his jersey. Everybody else does. And if you go through the story that Rod wrote, again, you can find it at NOLA.com/sports/Saints. You know, he's excited just to get another chance. He says, I didn't realize he was from Clinton, Mississippi, just 3 hours away. He says, quote, I'm still hungry and I'm young. I got a lot of tread on my tires and I want to rewrite my story personally. He's only 26 years old. Hey, what do you have to lose? I say nothing. I mean, Cam Akers could be that guy. You're talking about a veteran. I think, obviously, what do the Saints need? They need depth at running back. Devin Neal's going to make the team, no question. Kendra Miller going to make the team. He's probably going to get one more chance at least. When you talk about another running back, is it going to be Edwards-Helaire or is it going to be someone like Cam Akers? One of those two guys is going to probably make the team. And whoever that guy is going to probably see a decent amount of action. I can't wait to see. I mean, that's, Gabe says Cam Akers isn't significant enough to discuss. I disagree. You're not going to bring, I think this is a guy, he got in the doghouse, by the way, with the Rams. I don't know exactly how he got in the doghouse. It wasn't because of his performances. It was because something else was going on there. Now, he didn't do much last year, but look. In fact, here we go, live TV again. Y'all love when I do this on live TV. I'm going to call up Cam Akers' stats. See exactly how much he played. Well, that's what, I mean, he had 104 carries last season for two different teams, Vikings and Texans. That's why Gabe's talking about how he's insignificant. But he started 2 games last year. in his 25-year-old season. He played in 17 games. 17 games he played in last year. He had 104 carries for, let's see, got to do some math real quick, 400 and just shy of 450 yards. I mean, that's a pretty decent average. It's not fantastic, but it's not bad. Talking about right around 4 yards a carry. He scored any touchdowns. He had 3 touchdowns. So he's not really a touchdown guy. He's more of a, you look at some of the years he's had and you go back in the Rams, his first season, 2020, 145 carries for 625 and 2. 2021, he got hurt. 2022, he came back 188 carries for 786 yards. So he's not a guy that's going to carry you or do anything special. But I think he's a fine backup. As Kyle says, he tore both of his Achilles. Look, he's fought his way back. I think he's got a chance to come in and make this team. John Burris says he's puzzling. It's puzzling to him why the Saints sign another running back when we already have 4 decent ones. I think they have 1 decent one. And I'm not trying to be mean. You have 1 really good one, okay? And then you got a bunch of, they're all the same thing. You don't know what Devin Neal is. Kendra Miller, would you call him decent? We don't even know what the hell Kendra Miller is. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, would you call him decent? He hasn't done anything. So I think it's a good signing. Does he make the team? I don't know. What do you want to put odds on it? I don't know. It's probably 30%, 40%. But if he turns out to have anything in camp and you're not counting on a guy like that, I think he's a fine backup. Kyle Sherman says that Akers, if he gets back to form, he can be Kamara's successor. I wouldn't go that far. I think that's a little much. But Earl says he's a good second or third back. I agree with that. Montreal is here. Should Michael Thomas try out? Try out to do what? I don't think this franchise wants anything to do with Michael Thomas. That is called burning a bridge, my friend. When you burn bridges like that, just saying, you can't burn a bridge like that and expect to get another chance. Not with this franchise, anyway. I don't think they're going to do that. Lance Dobard says that Akers could be DeMarco Murray 2.0. Kyle Sherman says, no thanks on Michael Thomas. I agree. Look, I encourage everyone to go check out the story by Rod Walker on Cam Akers. UBN says, if Michael Thomas was good, he'd be on a team. Let it go. Look, I understand why people would talk about having him. And he's actually, at this point in his career, the kind of receiver that you would be looking for. But you can't bring someone in that said the things he said, even if it was about Dennis Allen, even if he was right. You can't bring someone that said those sorts of things and bring him in. Earl says no one wants Thomas, as you can say. That's another thing. Fans don't want him. I just don't think the franchise wants him. Before we move on from the running backs, I found it interesting also when you talk about Cam Akers, and I didn't even know Cam Akers was here. If you go to depth charts, and you can look through and find different depth charts, but the one I like to use is ourlads.com. I use them quite often, both for college and for pros. You can go check them out if you want. But right now, the way they have their depth chart, and it's usually pretty close. You can go into PFF, find a depth chart. You can go on some of the fantasy sites and find them. I use RotoWire. They have good depth charts. But this is the one I looked at for today. Right now, they have obviously Kamara's number 1. Kendra Miller is 2. Excuse me. Devin Neal 3, as he should be. But if you look at the rest of it, they got 4 guys together. Okay. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Velus Jones, Xavier Valade. I don't even know who that is. And Marcus Yarns. And they don't even have Cam Akers listed in here. So will he make it? I don't know. I had to look up. I'm like, Velus Jones, okay, that sounds familiar. And then I remembered who he was when I went and looked him up. Velus Jones was listed as a wide receiver for the Bears and Panthers. He's had 12 career catches and 20 career carries. He's exactly 300 yards. Exactly 300 yards of total offense in his, 1-2-3 year career. He didn't get a chance to play until he was 25 years old in 2022. He'll be 28 this year. I don't think Velus Jones has a whole lot of chances to make this team. I don't know that. Again, I don't know some of these other guys. And Valladay actually was mentioned in one of the stories that I don't remember. Maybe it was the Saints observation stories. Luke was talking about Shough and Rattler, and we're going to talk about that. But also, where is it? Again, live TV going through this. Rattler had the best completion of the day when he hit running back. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. Xavier Valladay on a wheel route down the right sideline. He was well behind Chase Young in coverage. What the hell was Chase Young doing? I know he's slimmed down and all, but what's he doing in coverage? And then Rattler threaded his pass into Valladay's hands before safety Travion Flulin could get there to help. Man, some of these things. So anyway, that's where we are with the running back situation. Let's see. I want to move on to, because I want to get to LSU early in the show today. I don't want to be too late. What else are we talk about? We talk about, does Spencer Rattler have the early lead? And does it matter to you guys? Does it matter that Rattler has had more reps so far? Now, maybe not so much yesterday. First day of minicamp. You got minicamp again today, open to the public. Then tomorrow, they will wrap it up before they go on vacation. Does it matter that Spencer Rattler to this point has had, does anyone think that's a real indication of who's going to start for this team? I don't necessarily think it is. Again, we talked about it multiple times here. Shough being brought in, drafted by Kellen Moore, is going to have the leg up. Are they just easing Shough into it? Don't want to throw too much at him at first. I think what really matters is what you see the first 2 weeks of camp. Now, unlike when we're talking about the offensive line moves, and now it's I wouldn't say it's official, but obviously Trevor Penning moving to guard. Everything we said we wanted to happen there is happening. Looks like Banks is going to be your left tackle, at least to start. Fuaga's going to move over to right tackle. Penning's moving inside the left guard. Could work out great. I don't think it matters as much when you're talking about quarterback, because I do think that maybe you're easing Shough in. When it matters to me is, what do you see the first 2 to 3 weeks of training camp? Okay. What happens in training camp when they first go out there? Are they going to start throwing Rattler out there number one to start? We'll see. I mean, first preseason game doesn't even really matter, but I think by then you'll start to have a feel. You might not know for sure. And I don't think anyone's going to name who the quarterback is. I think it's going to be probably preseason game number 3. Now, he may come out, and Kellen Moore, when I say he, may come out and say, we want to let everybody know this is who the quarterback is. It's possible that happens. But I think more likely than not, when you go in, it's going to be at least 3 weeks into camp, maybe 4th week of camp. You're talking about, again, preseason game number 3 or preseason game 2 or 3. I think it's going to be that far into camp before you figure it out. However, if you watch closely enough, I think you'll get a good idea. Who's going to start taking more up? Because if it's going to be Shough, they're going to have to transition to him taking more of the snaps, obviously. Duh. Will we see that? I don't know. Phil Mariandi, good morning. Welcome back to the Dattitude family. By the way, if you haven't hit the like button, please do so. You know what I say about me and Algie, the algorithm. They say it helps. I don't know why, but they say it helps. I will say this, though, and here's one reason why Rattler does have a chance. And there's a reason why I put the schedule, besides the fact that, you might as well take a look at it. But if you look at the first 4 games, and this is why I don't say Shough is 100% going to be the star. This is why I've stayed away from 0.0 on Rattler not starting. Because if you look at how this schedule opens up, and we've talked about this, the toughest part of this schedule is where? It's right in the beginning. You got 1, 2, 3, 4. Arizona, San Francisco, Seattle, Buffalo. All right, they're not beating San Francisco. I don't care where you play them. And they're not beating Buffalo. So those are 2 L's. Okay. Arizona, Seattle, possible wins. Arizona, the most likely of the bunch, and that's the opener. So how do you go into the season? Do you have the mentality, hey, I think if you're Kellen Moore, do you think this team can win 9 games realistically? Because if you do, then you're probably not going to want to make a change. But if you're going into this season thinking maybe this is a rebuilding year and you don't want to throw Shough to the wolves, okay, then maybe you do start Rattler. You see what happens. And look, if he plays well, then you don't take him out and it is what it is. And then you're in a great situation. But if he doesn't play better, excuse me, then maybe you do kind of what the Patriots did with Drake May last year. Gabe, what was it, like week 6 or 7 when Drake May came in last year with Jacoby Brissett? 6, he's saying 6? That would make some sense as well because you look at how much easier the schedule gets. It's not easy, don't get me wrong. But you look up there, Giants, New England, both winnable games. Will they win them? I don't know. They're not favorites in either one of them, but they're close. They're within a field goal. But to me, it's kind of the best of both worlds if you decide to go with Rattler first. Because if you throw Rattler in there and you start Rattler, again, I'm not advocating this. I think Tyler Shough should start. However, there is an argument and a good argument and a valid point to where if you go into this tough part of the schedule and start off, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, and let's say you find a way to go 2-2 in those games, and Rattler looks good, then great. It's the best of all worlds. But if he looks like he looked last year and they start 1-3 or God forbid 0-4, maybe you make the change. I don't know. I just think they're gonna go with Shough to start from day one. But how much does it defeat his confidence if Shough goes in there and loses the first 4 games? Then do you make a change and go to the Rat in week 5? Lance Dobart says, the only part of camp he cares about is seeing Tay-Tay in that black and gold. I'm glad you brought him up. It ain't looking good for Tay-Tay anytime soon. And that is actually in observations. I don't remember which one of the observation stories that I saw this in. Again, NOLA.com/sports/Saints. They have observations from each day, and then you'll have multiple stories from each day of minicamp. But I think Luke wrote it, that it didn't sound like Taysom Hill was going to – he's obviously not participating in minicamp, even though he's there. And from what it sounds like from the Saints side of things, that Taysom Hill is not going to be playing anytime soon. Like doesn't sound like – things could change. But it doesn't sound like Taysom Hill will be ready for the start of training camp. So, Lance, I'm sorry to tell you, you want to see Tay-Tay in black and gold. You might see him in black and gold, but not necessarily on a field. Earl's Pick says he wouldn't be surprised if they don't announce the start until right before week 1. There's no reason to. And it's the Saints. They're a pretty quiet team. Yeah, they're I mean, y'all know this. The Saints are going to hold things close to the vest. However, again, look, what is our percentage on reading through the lines? Obviously, we're not 100% because we got Carr wrong. But it's pretty good. 85, 90%. So I think, I'll tell you, I'll make my official prediction. I'll tell you now. Camp starts, I don't know, June. Usually it's July 24th, 25th, somewhere around there. I'd say by August 7th, 8th, 9th, somewhere around there, you're going to have a really good feel for who the quarterback is. I mean, does it matter before camp? Does it matter that we know before week 1? Not in the grand scheme of things, but that's what we do. We talk about it here. But I think by the second week of August, we're going to know. They're not going to tell us yet. I'd be surprised, very surprised if they tell us by then. But you'll pretty much know, I think. Apathy says his bold prediction is that if a starter isn't named by preseason week 1, it's a failure. Both need starter reps really bad. I wouldn't call it. Look, they're not going to do that. I can't say I don't think they know, because I think Kellen Moore has a good idea. Okay. But at the same time, when you're going into a rebuilding season, the tough part is that you do want to give them as many reps as you can. Okay. If you're not 100% sure that Shough's going to be your starter, and I don't think they're 100%, I'd be surprised if they're 100% sure. So if you're not 100% sure, I think you owe it to the team. And look, you guys know how I feel about the quarterback situation. But I think Spencer Rattler deserves a chance. I think he deserves a chance to be the starter. I don't think it's going to matter in the long run. And by the way, if you want to know what our lads has as depth chart, they're number one. They have Tyler Shough. They have Rattler second. Hayner third, Decker's fourth. So if that matters to you, I mean, that doesn't matter. I think you could put them 1A and 1B. But I think that Rattler deserves a chance to win the starting job. I just don't think he's going to win it. Lance Stobart says Penning at guard made him feel better. No flip-flopping lineups. Put both young tackles where they belong and move forward. I agree. Get those anchors down, baby. You got the anchors down, and now you get to see if Penning can do it a lot. The difference is this year over last year is you had to have Penning at right tackle, and it had to work because you really had no one else. Okay, and it kind of worked. It worked okay. I mean, they went 5-12, so nothing worked well. But the fact that Penning went in there and started all 17 games, right? But this year, if he doesn't work out at left guard, you got Dylan Radins, who has a lot of experience and is probably going to come in and play. Whoever gets hurt inside those tackles, Dylan Radins is going to get a chance to play. Will Clapp's going to probably get a chance to play. I think that this is the best shape that this offensive line has been in a really long time. Again, we're going to be moving on to LSU in just a minute, but Saints off 6 weeks after Thursday. Again, think about it. Think about how we've talked about offensive line since, I don't know, Drew Brees' last season. I think it's safe to say that until now, or until a month and a half ago, whenever draft was, whatever it was, April 29th, whatever. I think until April 29th, it's safe to say that from the day Drew Brees left the building, from that offseason until a month and a half ago, the offensive line has progressively gotten worse and worse and worse. Maybe it got it. I mean, you could make an argument that last year maybe it took a step. I don't think it did. But I think it progressively got worse and now they're taking a big jump. I don't remember who it was last week that told me, and I hadn't looked this up, but PFF ranks the Saints, or someone, I think it was PFF, ranking the Saints offensive line. I don't get into it this early. We'll talk more about this when we get into camp. As high as 12th. The Saints they have the 12th best offensive line. Man, what do you think Spencer Rattler said? Oh, I would have loved to have the 12th. He didn't have the 12th best offensive line last year when he was playing towards the end of the season. He didn't have any wide receivers. I'm going to give him credit for that. I just think it's an interesting situation because, look, we always said, and the one thing why we're hopeful for this season, but not necessarily record-wise, right? What do you want to see? And you look at the schedule again. You want to see from that Arizona game to that last game on the road at Atlanta, you want to see improvement from week 1 to week 18. And when you build in the trenches, you can be positive and feel good about what you got going into the year, because you probably, I mean, from your offensive line standpoint, you're almost certainly going to be better there. Build there, and then everything else kind of follows suit, you hope. Earl says it will help just having Penning against better guys around him. I agree. Montreal wants to know if I think Raheem Morris is going to be fired from Atlanta after this year. If they go 7-10 again? Or they didn't go 7-10. What did they go, 8-9 last year, 9-8? They didn't make the playoffs. I think they went 9-8. Whatever it is. If they don't make the playoffs this year, they might have to start over again. I didn't like that hire in the first place. I think Raheem Morris is Dennis Allen 2.0. Just saying. Lance, I'm not 100% sure. Are you talking about Cam Akers? He'll be back. Bet on it. He's built different. Him and Adrian Peterson are physical freaks. He'll be back by November. Oh, you're talking about Tay. Oh, okay. He is a physical freak. Charles Mangus says, got to run. We'll see you Friday. Absolutely. See you later. All right. I want to move on and talk about LSU. We're gonna and I'm going to actually finish the show with Saints. And Silver Gator says Saints climbed a Super Bowl started with years of offensive line restoration. That's what the Saints, that's the way to rebuild. 100%. And Silver, I think the big difference there is if you go back to 06, I don't think 05, the O-line was in as bad a shape as it was going into, certainly not in the last year, and then coming in. And I think Sean Payton he addressed it right away. And Kellen Moore has addressed it, but I don't necessarily think to the extent that Sean Payton. Look, that offensive line was a big difference maker in 06. So, yeah. I mean, there's no Drew Brees here, so it's a lot different. It's not like the Saints going to make the NFC Championship game in Kellen Moore's first year. You want to talk about something to be absolutely floored by, it's that. I would be floored, shocked, whatever word you want to use. Because you look at this gauntlet of a schedule. Best case scenario, 2-2 start. And if they start 2-2, sure. They can start. I mean, you want to live pipe dreams? Sure. 4-2 a possibility. Highly unlikely. But then you go through and there's little pitfalls in the schedule. The biggest pitfall of them all is not only do you have your toughest 4 games back to back to back to back right in a row, is after you play that New England game in week 6, you count them. After week 6 is what? October 12th or something like that? You got 4 home games the rest of the way. You know how brutal, how hard that's going to be on this team? It's going to be really hard. Really hard. All right, we're about set to move on to LSU. And I want to show a video and tell you my thoughts real quick before we bring Gabe on and have Gabe on in about 5 minutes. But first, we told you earlier we would let you know more about how Evangeline Securities can help you figure out what your family-run or privately held business might be worth and whether it's time to sell. How did they do it? Well, we're glad you asked. After their complimentary valuation of your company, if you decide to proceed, native New Orleanians Nick Braden, Ron Hemelt, and the folks at Evangeline will begin an extensive auction process from established private equity funds from around the world. And they'll maximize the return for the founder and his or her family. Evangeline Securities is the top producer on their platform. There are very few companies like them in this area. Really, none like them anyway. And none with their dedication and success. I got to finish this strong, so hold on. A little sip from the Cubs Cup before I tell you that they are fully licensed and ready to serve you. Get in touch with Nick and Ron about what's really important. It's not about who's the backup running back. It's not about the Saints' schedule. What is really important? The rest of your life. Find them at www.evangelinesecurities.com. All right. Moving on. What did Silver say? Drew Brees would be nothing without an offensive line. 100%, Silver. 100%. Apathy wants to know, can Evangeline help LSU's bat stay hot? I don't know. We can ask him. You just did. Nick will probably text me later. He listens to every show after the fact when he's coming home from work. And more often than not, when we mention him, he texts me. So he's probably listening later on. Can Evangeline help out? There you go. Nick Braden. Can Evangeline Securities help LSU's bat stay hot? Going on with going on. Yeah, I knew you meant Tate. It took me a second to realize it, Lance. Hakeem, by the way, talking about Saints real quick. I don't think Ireland has done a bad job identifying the talent. I think look, come on. You want to give Ireland credit, but you don't want to give Loomis any credit. Come on, man. I love you, Hakeem. You can't hate on one and love on the other. They all working together, man. I hate to tell you this. They're all working together. If you think the front office is doing a bad job, they're all doing a bad job. If you think they're doing a good job, they're all doing a good job. I love you. But you can't do that. You just can't. It's not fair. Not fair to them. All right. Initial thoughts. LSU as that quest for number 8, the Ocho, begins on Saturday. Again, I'm going to end the show with Saints. So if y'all got any more Saints questions, you can feel free to put them in. We'll talk about them at the end. Well, I'll have about 5 minutes. I'm going to give you all the last word today. But we're moving on to LSU because honestly, probably should have led the show with LSU, but it's minicamp, and I know a lot of y'all wanted to get out your thoughts. But being there Sunday night and that experience, and I get to do the box. I try to go once a year. I didn't get to go last year, and I think the year before that was when UBN and I went, and it was the same situation as Sunday night. It was supposed to be an afternoon game. They pushed it back to 5, and then they pushed it back to 6, and then he goes, if they push it back again, I'm out of here, because he couldn't say he had to get up. I mean, he gets up at like 2:33 in the morning. And it ended up not starting till 10 or something like that. And Zach Ewing and his son took the tickets. They ended up going. But I stayed this time, and I went by myself, and it was packed. I mean, I was surprised at how many people stuck around or came back, whatever it is. And the only good thing about UBN not being there is I got a seat open to my right, because it's jam-packed, baby. It's jam-packed. But to give you a little feel about how it went, okay, give you a little taste. This video clip is not just the final pitch of the season at the box and the one that gets the Tigers back to Omaha, but it's a feel for what it's like to be in the stands at the box. And my favorite part of this clip, I think, it's not them dogpiling or whatever, trying to dogpile. It didn't work out. My favorite part of this clip is listening to Dan Bornay in the background. The voice, the PA voice of the Tigers for as long as I've been alive. I don't know how old Dan Bornay is, and maybe he wasn't there doing it back in the 70s. I don't know. But as long as I remember a voice, and again, I was a member of the Golden Man from Tigerland back in the day in the mid-'80s, and he was there. So, and I know he was there a lot, probably longer than that. But his voice is just kind of makes this whole thing. This is a 1 minute, 9 second clip. We'll let you be there. I posted this on X. I'll show it here. You're there with me at Alex Box Stadium.
Virginia in the ninth inning. Final score, LSU 12, West Virginia 5. LSU is the Baton Rouge Regional Super Regional Champion. The Tigers advance to the College World Series in Omaha, Nebraska. LSU is 48-15 this season. West Virginia is 44-16. The winning pitcher for the Tigers is Anthony Ianson. His record is 11-2. Lost charge to Jack Martinez, his record 6-4.
Just everything about that is cool to me. If you're an LSU fan and you've been an LSU fan your whole life, that voice is special. But you get to hear what it's like to be in the stands. And I just thought from the whole perspective of that was kind of cool. And it's something different. It's something different than you see on TV. And there's no place in college baseball. I mean, you can talk about Omaha. It's great they're going back, and of course that's the goal every year. But Alex Box is the place to be, man. It's pretty cool. Abdi says he doesn't know how LSU's going to do against Arkansas, but he knows one thing: those Jello shots. I guarantee you, the Jello shot makers are thrilled. They're ecstatic that LSU is going back to the College World Series. Again, Gabe coming on in just a minute. My initial thoughts before I get to Gabe real quick. I think that, obviously pitching is the most important. And yeah, they got to hit. Of course they got to hit. I mean, you can't, you being smart ass said last week. You can't hit, you can't win. You can't win if you score 0 runs. Of course. Tigers were able to hit this weekend better than they were. In fact, I thought they were overall better in the Super Regionals than they were in the Regionals. But why is that? It's that 1-2 punch. And even though Gabe Henderson and Anthony Ianson didn't pitch maybe as well as they have, it just goes to show you got to have that one. That's why I give LSU an advantage, even though their bracket is, look, there's no doubt in my mind. And the odds show you. LSU's plus 230, Arkansas plus 185. So those two teams are clearly, whoever wins that Arkansas LSU game is probably going to be even money to win the World Series. So if you want to bet on LSU, you need to do it now. Because if they win game one, they're going to be like even money to win the thing. You should have bet them on them already. But you look at Coastal at the top part of the bracket, plus 600, and we'll talk again when Gabe comes on. We'll talk about more of that in a minute. But the dominating 1-2 starters, if they can be as dominating as they've been, that obviously gives LSU the advantage going to this. How much is Cade Anderson getting hit on the arm? Is it going to affect them this week? Probably not. You would hope that it doesn't. But, I mean, we can't say that it does or doesn't. That'll be something to watch out for. Do they hold Cade Anderson an extra day and start Anthony Ianson in the first game on Saturday? Not sure. LSU, Gabe looked it up for me right before we went on. The Tigers did win 2 of 3 at home against Arkansas, May 9th through 11th, so they just played a month ago. First game won at 5-4 in 10 innings, then run ruled them 13-3 in 7, and then lost 7-4 in the final game. Does that matter? I don't know. Evangeline is kind of rooting for Murray. I'm definitely rooting for Murray State. As long as they're not playing LSU, that's who I'm rooting for. Well, let's get Gabe in here and talk about this College World Series. And, you know, Gabe, when we kind of talked about it in the lead up off the air before we got started. And the bracket, there are a lot of, you know, I hadn't seen this, but you said you saw people on social media kind of complaining about LSU's draw. And calling up the bracket, LSU Arkansas is the final first game. It's the College World Series starts Friday. The first game is Coastal in Arizona. That's the top half of the bracket. Oregon State and Louisville follow. And then on Saturday, the bottom half of the bracket, UCLA plays Murray State, and then Arkansas plays LSU. Now, there's no question that Arkansas LSU, we talked about it. They're 1-2 in the favorites list. But you can't just in my opinion, you seed them like that from 1 to 16, so you know everything ahead of time. And I'm with you, and I know you feel the same way I do. You don't want to reseed. You don't want to redo this thing going into the College World Series.
No, it's dumb. Yeah, LSU drew one of the other 2 national seeds remaining, but that's always been the case. I mean, it's not their fault that, you know, Texas and Vanderbilt and North Carolina and all those other teams. You can't plan for that. It's just reseeding it would be dumb. And then if you reseeded it, you wouldn't get teams like Coastal Carolina a few years ago when they won the title. You wouldn't get Ole Miss, who was
qualifier.
On the deathbed to even make the tournament. They rally and then they end up winning the national title. You wouldn't get those stories. You would just get the deepest teams having, you know, the competition handed to them essentially. And LSU,
it's like UBN says, Gabe. It's like UBN says.
Yeah,
people going over the draw, they probably have the easiest road to get there.
Yeah, with all due respect to West Virginia, I mean that's a program in the infancy of where it is as an elite program, which is what it's trying to be. I mean that's their second super regional. It was a very easy path. They didn't get
the 2 SEC teams playing each other. It sucks.
Yeah, but whatever.
But it is what it is. I mean,
I would love to be the one to knock Arkansas out.
And I got to be honest. I know UCLA is pretty good, but I'd be shocked if it's not one of the SEC teams making it through that bracket on the bottom.
I agree.
So, I mean, whether I'm not going to tell you, I think it's going to be LSU. If I had to pick one, I think it'll be LSU. I think their pitching gives them the best chance. But that being said, you know, I'm going to predict an LSU Coastal final. I think Coastal is the best team on the top, not just because of the winning streak they're on and the ridiculous winning streak. Louisville's playing very well right now.
Oregon State
is really also playing very well, but I think Coastal is probably the best team on the top. But hey, it is what it is, and the bracket is what it is, and I just don't think you can't complain about it.
Do you think Murray State is sitting there complaining right now?
Murray State is playing with house money.
They're thrilled to be there. So why is the 7-time national champions are we sitting here saying, "Oh, poor us, we shouldn't get Arkansas"? No, come on.
Yeah,
if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best.
If LSU wins and somehow Murray State stays hot, people will be all fired up. LSU will be fired up. But I'll be like, I don't know. Do you really want to play a team like that? I mean, I wouldn't mind playing them if you got to play in a losers bracket. It is what it is. I mean, you don't want to play in a losers bracket.
There's no favorable draw here in Omaha.
I agree. I mean,
if
they got that far and they weren't seeded, it means they got super hot and they were really tough to beat. So I just think. Go ahead.
But before we go on and talk about some of the other stuff in the College World Series and with LSU, can we talk about Arizona really quick?
Yeah, for sure.
Did you see what they did in the Super Regional?
I know they had to come back, and they had
lost game 1, 18-2.
Yeah, exactly. And I wrote them off.
18-2, and they came back and won that region. That's super impressive.
No, I had written them off, and also, that Arkansas Tennessee series was phenomenal. By the way, I thought it was.
That's a perfect segue. You don't even know this because you don't know what I want to talk about. That's the perfect segue into what I wanted to talk about.
I thought it was going to be Tennessee. Even though Arkansas is the better team,
I didn't think for a second it would be Tennessee.
Well, you were right.
And so,
go ahead.
Have you seen all the talk on Twitter recently from Tennessee fans?
No, but they're always miserable.
Tennessee fans are now calling themselves the face of college baseball. They're saying Tennessee is the face of college baseball.
Why would they say that?
Because they say the sport has gotten more popular since Tony Vitello got to Tennessee. Okay. Which is just, it's an insane take to say that a team with one national title is the face of college. No, the only thing Tennessee is the face of is the most hated group year after year in college baseball. They are the most unjustifiably cocky team and fans year after year.
I would be willing to bet that if you were asking someone, just a general person, I mean, first of all, not everyone even knows about it, but just a general college baseball fan, who are the faces of college baseball? I think one would be the LSU. And I'm not being biased. I
think there's three acceptable
one's LSU.
Answers.
I think Florida's got to be. I mean, they've had a run, and I think you could say Miami over the course of the past 3 decades. Miami, I think those are the three teams. Those are the three teams I think of when I think about college baseball. Again, I'm older, so maybe the younger fan. I'd love to hear the younger fans' perspective, but those are the 3 teams that I think of.
I would say LSU, Texas, and USC.
I mean, USC, you definitely even I'd say Mississippi State before I'd say Tennessee.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you talk about the last 30, 40 years of college baseball. And to me, the only thing that matters is the last 40 years of college baseball. I mean, college baseball was completely different until, let's just face it, LSU and USC and maybe even Mississippi State changed how this game, how the importance of how people care.
State, but
well, LSU and USC, I think they changed. So, yeah, I should have put them in there. But anyway, they're the reasons why people give a damn about college baseball. Tennessee, they're a great story the last couple of years. So, anyway, what are your thoughts real quick before we move on? But because we're gonna end this show a little earlier today. We've got about 10 minutes left in this show. And look, UBN's right. Stanford too. You could be considered Stanford. But what are you looking forward to most? And give me a little mini prediction. We you know what? Save your prediction. I'll get your prediction on Friday. But just what are you looking forward to most in this bracket? Because I said this before the regionals, and I kind of had a feeling this is what this bracket was going to look like. You couldn't predict this bracket. It was way too hard to predict. It was easy to predict LSU because they had the right road. Okay, so that was easy to predict. But other than that, this looks like exactly how I wanted it to look, because it wouldn't surprise me if some team we ain't talking about, whether it's Arizona, whether it's Louisville. I don't think Murray State really has a chance.
Don't say we with Arizona. I don't speak French, Jim.
But
I'm talking about Arizona.
Oui. I just think that this is going to be one of the most exciting College World Series, because there's flavor from everywhere. It's not all SEC. You get other people outside of the SEC. I'm looking forward to this. I'm going to watch from game 1 to game 13 or whatever the hell it is. If I can, I'm going to certainly do my best to try, because I'm very interested in this because of the different flavor.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. I'll tell you what I'm most excited for. I'm most excited for the other side of the bracket with Coastal, Oregon State, Arizona, and Louisville.
Yeah, one of those four teams going to be in.
Such a fun part of the bracket. I mean, I could see all four of those teams doing it. Louisville maybe less so than the others, but they're a good baseball team. They've been hot. So I don't know. I truly do not know who's going to come out of that side of the bracket. I don't think UCLA and Murray State really stand a puncher's chance against Arkansas and LSU, but we'll see.
Yeah, we will. Obviously, whoever comes out of the bottom is going to be favored, unless it's UCLA or Murray State and they're going against a Coastal or something like that. Mm-hmm. They're going to be favored. Anyway, we'll talk more about this on Friday. Again, Garland Gillen coming on. We'll probably have our lead on Friday will be LSU for sure as they go into the College World Series. But look forward to getting your prediction on Friday. Get it ready. We'll talk about it.
I will.
All right. Gabe Henderson, everybody. He is. Oh, well, hold on real quick. I want to bring it back real quick because I'll forget later. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Sportsbook Review.
Sportsbookreview.com. What you got going?
Got a bunch of NBA Finals content coming out today, and I've got prep for the Club World Cup coming up in the summer. A lot of NBA Finals content tonight, though. I've got predictions. I've got player props. I've got parlays for both sides. Put together a nice little same-game parlay for either side to win, and then one in general. I think plus 1878 odds. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll look for sportsbookreview.com. Give it us. We'll see you Friday. All right, everybody. Just real quickly before we wrap up the show with Saints, Lance says he doesn't watch baseball for some reason. He hates Tennessee baseball. It's funny because you can hate Kentucky basketball. You hate Tennessee baseball. There's different things. Hate's a strong word, but I hear you. As we roll in, again, we're going to spend the last minute or two talking about the Saints, but we're going to end the show early today. Earlier than usual. Not early. I mean, we're an hour and 12 in. But if you look at these numbers, and if you go, it's easy to find the bracket, but Friday at 1, Coastal Carolina will play Arizona. And then game 2 is Oregon State and Louisville. That's the top part of the bracket. Oregon State, Louisville. Louisville might be a good value at plus 1,700. They're playing really well right now. I mean, of course, all these teams, if you made it this far, they're playing really well right now. But if you're looking for a value that's probably my best value, Louisville at plus 1,700. I kind of like Coastal at plus 600. And I don't think either one of those two favorites, they're favorites for a reason. They should be the favorites. Arkansas and LSU should be the favorites. I don't think you can bet them. You can do whatever you want, but I'm not betting on them at those prices. Again, if you like either one of those teams, bet them now because the winner of that first game, and look, you want to talk about there's super important and then there's like this important. I mean, especially for LSU. If LSU can win that game 1 on Saturday, and then they play game 2 against either UCLA, probably UCLA. I mean, you can't discount Murray State because, I mean, it is what it is. But if it's LSU, UCLA, those first 2 games, and you get the 1-2 punch, you get Anderson, you get Ianson, what order we don't know yet. By the way, Koki was going to come on the show, but he is actually traveling to Omaha as we speak. He will be on the show on, I think he's going to, even though it's Mono Monday, I think he's going to stop by Monday. I think we're going to have him Monday morning for a little bit. Terrence says he likes Coastal, sadly. Yeah, it's okay to like someone to win. Look, we hope we're wrong, right? I mean, if you think Coastal's going to win, you think Coastal's going to win, but you root for LSU, it's all good. I mean, I actually think LSU is going to win this thing, but I don't feel as strongly about it as I did 2 years ago. Going into and look, they were about the same. I think they were like plus 180 or plus 200, so it wasn't that far off from what they are right now. At plus 230 going in. That being said, I don't feel nearly as good about this LSU team as I did 2 years ago. I was feeling great about that team. And there's a reason why. But when you got this 1-2 punch that LSU's got, if they get in that winners bracket and they play, if they're playing Wednesday in the winners bracket, with a chance to knock somebody out. Man. And then, even if they lose that Wednesday game, let's say they win Saturday, they win Monday, and they make it to Wednesday, and then they lose with whoever their third starter is. I mean, Thursday, you can bring back Ianson or Anderson. It's not ideal. It's set up perfectly to where if you win Saturday, Monday, Wednesday, and you go into that championship bracket, then you're in the best of all worlds. Best shape of, obviously. But even if you have to start an Ianson or an Anderson in a potential what is that game? That would be game 14, actually. Bottom half of the bracket. You know, the loser won. So now it's a double elimination tournament. So if the loser beats you on that Wednesday game, you got to play again on Thursday to make it to the championship series. And if they lose Wednesday, they're in decent shape Thursday. That's why I like LSU. The pitching just sets up for it to work out that way. And Pamela, absolutely go Omaha. It's so funny. I have a couple friends who are not LSU fans, and they hate the whole Omaha, EAUX, Maha, and go Maha. They hate that. Drives them nuts. So that's why I made sure to put it on the front today. All right, final thoughts as we wrap it up here on this Wednesday show. Saints off for 6 weeks after Thursday, after tomorrow. Mini camp today, which is why another reason why I forgot that they were. I don't know. I wouldn't say forgot, but all of my friends who would normally come on the show, they're all out at mini camp. I ain't doing that. I'm going to pass on mini camp. I probably will go to the other training camps back here. I probably will go to training camp and get some video when camp starts. I'll probably go out there a few days. We'll see how that goes. It seems like a long way away, but it really isn't. It's hard to believe. I mean, when you're talking about we're going to take a few weeks off coming up, it's really not a few weeks. We're only taking 2 weeks off. We're going to come back and work on a lot of things I got to work on before we get started. So even though it's still part of season 5, it's kind of like a whole new season. It's like I really ought to cut them up into 2 seasons a year. I don't do that. So when I come back to work, I will come back to work right after the 4th of July. What is that? We have the schedule on the 7th. I will come back to work. And our first show back, I think, is going to be the 11th of July, which is that Friday. But I got a lot to do between that Monday and that Friday. Lots to do. We got to get things ready. We're also going to do our NFL previews a little bit different this year. Our NFL previews, I think I'm going to do them in shorts. Also, show number 400 is coming up. Gabe and I have been talking about what possibilities. And this is just a theory. I'm not sure that I'm going to do this, but I thought about doing a Dattitude marathon. You think we could make it through? I don't know whether it would be 6 hours or 12 hours. I think 12 hours probably. The more I think about it, the more I think. But maybe have like revolving guests, like just throughout the show. And whoever, I'll give like 12 people, maybe 14 people an invite. And they just kind of pop in. And I'll give them a window. Can you come between this time and this time, anytime between this time and that time? Just have a revolving door of guests. What do y'all think for show number 400? I also thought about maybe, and Terrence says, his son is in Omaha. I wish you were there with him. I wish you were too, my friend. I also thought about, are we to the point where show number 400, I mean, it's kind of do it like you've done it before. Also, maybe not make that big of a deal out of it. Now, show 500 would definitely make a big deal out of that. That would be probably, if I don't know if it's the end of the year or early next year, show 500. We'll have to figure that out. But anyway, what do you think of a marathon? What do you think of a marathon? Oh, you meant with Saints. You meant that your son is at minicamp. Those tickets were hard to come by from what I understand. People are fired up. People fired up about minicamp. I don't know if it's the older I get. You went to Omaha in 23. Yeah. I'm going to go to Omaha one of these years. I keep saying that. I guess now's as good a time as any, even especially if they do make it to the championship series. I would be off and I could go, but I probably won't. Trying to save up. Lance says there needs to be a Dattitude live from a good restaurant where we can attend, maybe at the racetrack. Yeah, you know what? I've actually thought about that. That's another thing I want to work on in the off season. Off season. It's not an off season. It's 2 weeks of vacation and then a week of coming back to work. I am going to work on getting us. I want to do that. I want to have a live Dattitude at a restaurant. You know, I'd like to, even if it was like once a month, you did a live show from a restaurant. Gabe would have to handle the I'll say column the overlays, but I'm sure you could do that from where he is. We'll see. We're going to work on that. UBN says if they make it to the championship, we going. If you twist my arm hard, you probably wouldn't have to twist it that hard. Just my guess. All right. We're going to close out with that. Again, Saints minicamp finishing up tomorrow, Thursday. If you're watching this or listening to this later, we will talk about it on Friday with Garland Gillen, but we are going to lead Friday's show with LSU and talk about their chances and ask Garland what he thinks needs to happen. Who knows? Maybe we'll talk about Aaron Rodgers' wife, Brittany Rodgers. Give me a break. I mean, really? Who gives a rat's ass? I mean, why is that in any newsletter of mine? I mean, maybe Gabe's right. Maybe it is rumor junkies. Who gives a damn? Aaron Rodgers got married. Good for you. I mean, first of all, what kind of wacko do you have to be to marry Aaron Rodgers? I mean, unless you, I ain't saying she a gold digger. I'll leave it at that. I mean, got to be something like that, right? I mean, seriously, who would marry that wacko? I don't get it. I don't have to get it. I already talked long enough. Especially, I just wasted a minute of this show talking about Brittany Rodgers. I want to thank today's guests, Gabe Henderson, and you. You are always my guest here on the show. We have fun, don't we? You want to have some more fun? Well, come on back on Friday. Garland Gillen here. Next week, Mono Monday, although with Koki. I think Koki's going to come on Monday. And then Doug Mouton, the first half of season 5 finale, the halftime break, we'll call it. Doug Mouton will come on for that show on June the 18th, next Wednesday. Then it'll be bye-bye until July 11th. By the way, if you're not doing anything this afternoon, I will be on Eric Asher's show Inside New Orleans on the Ticket, 106.7 this afternoon at 4:35 p.m. You can find it also online. Look for it. It's the Ticket, 106.7 here in New Orleans if you want to listen to it. A reminder, I shouldn't have to remind you. You should want to be, if you're part of the Dattitude family, or if you're not yet and you've been thinking about joining, it's free. Dattitude on YouTube. That's where we live. Come check us out. Come hit subscribe. Hit the little bell to receive notifications when we go on the air live. Again, usually Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 11 a.m. Central Time. You click the little bell. You'll know when we're going on if it's not one of those times. And you can give us a like while you're at it. Thumbs up. You can also find us wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, and many more. And always find a replay of the show on NOLA.com/sports. Last comment of the day. Earl's Pitt says, whoever his wife is, I bet she's got hairy pits. Yikes. Namaste. Happy birthday to Mrs. Derry. We will see you all on Friday. And Paul Haley and Donnie and Selmo, you as well. We'll see you Friday. Wow, that comment really got me. I love y'all. Peace and love, my friends.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is. or at least the way he thinks it is.